Have you ever wondered if your zodiac sign existed, not just in the modern world, but millions of years ago when survival was fragile and every day was lived on the edge of fear? Imagine a world before words, before walls, before safety. A world where storms ripped through shelters of sticks and skins, where beasts larger than men prowled the darkness, where hunger carved hollows into bellies that never felt full. In such a world, strength mattered, strategy mattered, courage mattered. But just as vital as all these was something softer, something often overlooked, yet impossible to live without the warmth of care, the sense of belonging, the creation of home. And in that world, Cancer was not simply the sensitive sign of the zodiac. Cancer carried another name, the nurturer of the tribe. The tribe lived day to day by the firelight. Hunters left at dawn, their faces hard, their stomachs already growling. Gatherers bent low to the earth, fingers raw from clawing at roots and berries. Children clung to their mothers, their laughter quick to turn into cries. The elders told stories in voices that cracked like dry wood, and through it all shadows lingered, fear of predators, fear of starvation, fear of the unknown. Yet within this fragile circle of humanity, there was a figure who moved gently, who spoke softly, who carried not weapons, but comfort. That was Cancer. Cancer's strength was different from the warriors or strategists. They noticed what others did not. The child shivering too far from the fire, the wound hidden beneath a brave face, the old woman too weak to eat without help. Where others brought down beasts or built shelters, Cancer built something just as important. They built home. When night fell and fear crept close, Cancer was the one to stir the pot to feed the hungry before themselves. When thunder shook the sky, they wrapped skins around the children, whispering lullabies until the little eyes closed. When warriors returned with nothing in their hands but failure, Cancer offered them food saved from their own portion, along with words that reminded them tomorrow might be different. And when grief struck, when someone did not return from the hunt, Cancer's arms were the place where tears could fall without shame. But this role was not easy. Imagine carrying everyone's fears as if they were your own. Imagine never being free from the weight of other people's pain. Cancer felt everything deeply. When a child cried, it was as though the cry tore through their own chest. When a mother wept for her lost son, Cancer wept too, holding her until dawn. When the tribe argued, their voices harsh and sharp, Cancer felt the edges cut into their spirit. And yet, despite the exhaustion, despite the loneliness of carrying burdens no one else could see, Cancer rose again each morning, because love was not something they could turn off. It was who they were. There was a night when a great storm swept through the valley. The wind howled like 1,000 beasts, tearing at the shelters, scattering branches across the camp. The fire sputtered, drowning in rain. Panic surged. Warriors shouted, children screamed, the old wailed in terror. In the chaos, Cancer did not run. They dropped to their knees over the embers, curling their body around the fragile glow. With bleeding hands, they shielded the fire from wind and water, feeding it with every scrap of dry wood they could find. Hours passed. Their bodies shivered, their lips turned blue, but they would not move. And when morning broke against all odds, the fire was still alive. The tribe, cold and shaken, gathered close to it, their eyes filled with awe. They realized then that strength was not only in spears and strategies. Sometimes strength was the quiet act of refusing to let the flame die. Another trial came with famine. The hunters returned day after day with empty hands. The forest gave no meat, the river no fish. Desperation turned bitter. Whispers spread, perhaps the weak should be left behind, so the strong could move faster, survive longer. The air grew heavy with division, but Cancer stepped forward, their voice quiet but unyielding. They refused to abandon anyone. Instead, they dug deeper into the earth, gathering bitter roots, stripping bark, boiling leaves into a foul but nourishing stew. They fed the old, they cradled the infants, they placed bowls in front of warriors who had nearly given up. Their body grew thin, but their will never broke. Weeks later, when the herds returned and food filled the camp again, everyone remembered that it was Cancer's care, not the hunt, that had kept them alive long enough to see the season change. And there were quieter moments just as vital. A child with fever crying through the night. Cancer sat by their side, cooling their skin with damp cloths, humming songs into the darkness. An elder who whispered of giving up Cancer held their hand, reminding them of the stories only they could tell, refusing to let their wisdom fade. Even the fiercest warrior, when the battles of the day were over, found themselves resting easier because Cancer had pressed food into their hands, had offered a smile that reminded them of softer things worth protecting. Cancer's gift was not only survival of the body, but of the spirit. They reminded the tribe that life was more than struggle. They created laughter around the fire, weaving stories with gentle gestures. They created safety in small acts of kindness. They created memory belonging love. And though songs were not sung in their name, and though their sacrifices often went unnoticed, their work lived in every heartbeat that carried forward into the next generation. If you are a Cancer today, perhaps you know this feeling. The exhaustion of giving more than you receive. The loneliness of being the one who cares the most. The sting of being called too sensitive, too soft, too weak. Perhaps you have cried alone after everyone else was asleep, wondering if your love mattered. And yet, just as it was in the tribe, this is not weakness. This is your greatest strength. For without you, homes are cold. Without you, families fracture. Without you, the tribe may survive, but it does not live. Life, 10 million years ago, was harsh. Aries may have fought, Taurus may have guarded Gemini, may have connected Virgo, may have healed Libra, may have balanced Scorpio, may have strategized, but Cancer nurtured, Cancer fed the hungry, cradled the broken, shielded the fire, and carried the invisible weight of every heart in the tribe. Because Cancer loved the tribe, survived not just in body, but in spirit. Because Cancer nurtured humanity, did not just endure, it became a family. So when you look at the night sky, when you find the constellation of Cancer glowing faintly among the stars, remember this. Truth long before words, long before homes, long before the idea of family was spoken aloud, your spirit had already taken its place. You were there, kneeling in the storm, shielding the embers with your trembling body. You were there, refusing to abandon the weak, stirring bitter stew with steady hands. You were there, rocking the children to sleep, whispering hope into the ears of a frightened tribe. You were the nurturer of the tribe, and you still are.